Let's go back to one of our top stories now. A refugee leader in Cape Town says today's ruling is proof that South Africa doesn't care about their plight. The High Court has found that hundreds of foreign nationals living on the streets around Greenmarket Square and the Central Methodist Church must comply with the city's bylaws. They're part of a group demanding to be resettled in other countries, citing xenophobic violence. Aisha Ismail was in court. She joins us now live. So, Aisha, there were several conditions put to this. Tell us overall what the judgment said.
Well, this is an interim court interdict, and it now allows the City of Cape Town to start enforcing its bylaws. But as you say, the judge did impose certain conditions, and acting judge Daniel Tulare did say to the City of Cape Town that they now need to provide a facility for the Department of Home Affairs to start a screening process, and that is a verification process, and also to start an administrative process that is in line with the immigration and refugee laws. But I am also joined by the City of Cape Town's J.P. Smith, who is the head of law enforcement, and he's going to be telling us exactly how the city is going to be dealing with this interim interdict. Mr. Smith, there is an interim interdict. When are you going to enforce it, and how?
So the court order is quite clear that we need to assist the Department of Home Affairs in setting up this screening facility. The planning will happen in the next few days, and we will, within the 7 days, as required by the interdict, then offer people the opportunity to go there and be screened by the Department of Home Affairs. Non-compliance with that is in and of itself a contempt of court, and thereafter the court interdict says we may then proceed to enforce our bylaws, which is exactly what we will then do. Remember that since October last year we have not been allowed to give effect to any of our bylaws relating to erecting structures, performing ablutions, cooking, making fire, performing bodily functions or anything else. All those have been suspended since October last year, which in turn has given rise to quite a complicated situation out here, with hundreds and hundreds of complaints and meetings and demands to the city to intercede with the situation.
But some would argue it's all very well to have this interim interdict on paper. How will you enforce it?
We have to deal with difficult and conflict-ridden situations every day. This is one in which the media have decided to give much focus, but we have many others daily where we have to deal with potential conflict situations, and where we give effect to court orders along with the sheriff of the court and SAPS. And this one will go hand in hand with careful planning. Hopefully everybody else will see sense, and we will have an amicable resolution. People will comply with the court's orders. It is, after all, the court. We must all obey the laws of our country. But if not, the court order is quite clear that the city officials must thereafter not be interfered with and not be prevented from doing their duty. And ultimately, the situation behind me is not a sustainable situation into the future. It has to be brought to resolution soon.
But this interim court order only applies to the refugees and asylum seekers who are living outside of the church.
That's correct, ma'am. The city did not apply for relief relating to the people inside the church. The church itself is private property. That's not the city's jurisdiction, and so we made no attempt in our court proceedings to have any court order relating to the people in the church. Our concern is with what happens on the public sidewalks and how that is impacting on the market, the business community, tourism, and the environmental health situation that is being created here, which our officials now tell us is critical. So that is our focus. It only applies to people outside the church. What the Methodist Church does in relation to the people currently inside the church is entirely for them to decide.
Now, just in terms of clarity, the City of Cape Town did not seek an eviction order.
Correct, ma'am. We did not seek an eviction order. The reason for the interdict application came about when we were doing joint planning with SAPS, and SAPS said that they preferred us to proceed with an interdict. We went to the court asking the court to confirm and to compel the persons involved here to comply with the court order. It was the softest and gentlest way we could approach the matter, rather than just show up and enforce city bylaws. We set about trying to issue compliance notices, trying to explain and educate people around the provisions of our bylaws, and that's when our staff were intimidated and threatened. That's when SAPS also said it's better if we go for an interdict application, and that interdict application then became a suspensive condition, which for 5 months has allowed the situation to steadily increase and get worse.
So just to, for the sake of clarity, after 7 days, after the screening has taken place, you will then enforce the city's bylaws. Does that mean that people will be removed and physically removed from here?
So we do clean-up operations all the time, and we will apply the same principles here, do it in a way so as to reduce any possible harm to people or property, and try and find a reasonable ground with people here. Unfortunately, the statements by some of the refugee leadership earlier this afternoon seems hell-bent on creating more conflict, and in fact the court criticised them for having misled people here, having falsely created the impression that relocation to another country in Northern America or otherwise is possible, when in fact this probably was never an option, as the UNHCR made clear, and the court actually took issue with the aggression and the misrepresentation engaged in by refugee leadership.
Thank you so much for your time. And that was the City of Cape Town's JP Smith.
All right, Aisha Ismail is in Cape Town.